Alison Moore is the SVP of something called digital platforms at HBO.
Yeah.
Alison, welcome to TechCrunch TV.
Thank you.
Alison, we're at the Fast Company Innovation Conference. What are you innovating at HBO that you're most proud of?
So we have just launched in the last 6 months HBO Go, which is our new TV Everywhere product. So essentially, if you're an HBO subscriber, you can now, through your HBO subscription, get 1,400 titles of HBO content on Android, iOS platform, iPad, iPhone, and now in fourth quarter we'll be launching on connected TVs, game boxes. So that's the digital platform side that we're kind of expanding out into, our HBO Go offering.
So is HBO Go identical to the HBO cable offering?
It is comprised of everything that's on HBO. So right now we have HBO, which is your channel, right, that you watch 9 p.m. on Sundays. We have HBO On Demand, which has a limited kind of library of content that refreshes every week. And now HBO Go is everything that you would expect. So it's not only what's on the network today and all the theatricals, documentaries, sports, HBO films, but it also has everything in the catalog of HBO. So Deadwood, 6 Feet Under, Sex and the City, every episode, every season of every episode on the product itself. And it will stay there in perpetuity and just grow as we launch more product on the network.
There are some people, and some of them may indeed be watching this show, who believe that everything on the internet should be accessible.
Right.
And that you should be able to watch HBO online whether or not you're an HBO cable subscriber. What would you say to them?
Somebody's got to pay for that good content that you're actually looking to watch. And I think, an HBO subscription affords us to be able to create the great content that's on the network itself. And so what I think they're really speaking to is variability and access, right? And so that be able to get HBO Go through a non-affiliate subscription. And to be honest with you, this is a business sort of evaluation on our side. We get enormous, tremendous, benefit from working with our partners. Right now, you have to have a buy-through to get to HBO in many of those situations, so that you effectively have to pay a pretty large nut before you can even access HBO. What I would say is that we're working with our affiliate partners to kind of figure out how do we make HBO and HBO Go, therefore, more accessible to consumers at maybe different package rates, so that it feels a little bit more accessible and more flexible without having to just be on the internet for anybody to take at any given time. I mean, we have to retain the kind of value in the subscription to be able to kind of create what we create.
How are you finding consumers' experience of HBO Go impacting their cable or television habits?
So what we're seeing now, it just affords more choice. We saw that with HBO On Demand, which was basically still in front of your television, but allowed you to watch it any time you wanted to. Now, HBO Go extends it to anywhere. So now whenever you want to watch it, anywhere in the house or outside of your house, you're able to watch HBO. We saw with HBO On Demand that it really contributed to retention. Retention for us is huge. If a consumer stays on with HBO a couple more months, that really adds millions of dollars to our bottom line in aggregate. So what we're seeing so far, and it's early, we don't have a ton of data yet, but the HBO Go affects people's retention rates on their subscription and value of what they're getting and what they're paying for as equally, if not more so, than HBO On Demand did. So the experience is different, the flexibility is better, the catalog that's available to you at any given time is better, and therefore it's laddering back in the way that was planned, value to the core subscription, and that works for us.
Alison, pricing. You smile.
Because there's always a question around pricing.
Well, but it is a legitimate question.
Sure, yeah.
And talk to me about two elements of pricing. Firstly, why can't you just pay for HBO content online? And secondly, what is your position on a la carte pricing when it comes to cable access?
Okay, so the reason you can't buy HBO just online by itself is what I was saying a little bit earlier. I mean, we get an enormous benefit as a business for having partnerships with cable, telco, and satellite distributors around the selling and managing and marketing of HBO. I mean, there have been partners of ours for over 30 years, and what that does for us as a business is help take on, frankly, some of that cost and infrastructure to do that. I think what you'll see is maybe not, we have the right to be able to look and evolve our business the way we want to evolve this over the next 5 years. Right now, it doesn't make a whole lot of fiscal math sense to be able to just undo that relationship that we've built of 100 million, basically, TV-connected households in the US, and all the possibilities of selling HBO to that wide audience when we're in like over a third of the base, for what is essentially a 5 to 6 million and growing population of broadband-only households, which is what an HBO Go directly accessed by itself would be offered to. So the question becomes, how do we have that flexibility in the kind of in the ecosystem that we're playing in today with our cable partners to make HBO Go more accessible and make sure that the pricing in aggregate is not too high. And a la carte pricing, I mean, look, we're part of that ecosystem, that a la carte pricing, and then the math that works for that. I'm not privy to all of the abacuses that are kicked up to figure out the value and how you do that. You have sports involved in that, you have sports packaging involved with that, you have premium packaging, you have basic networks. I mean, clearly from a consumer perspective, I think there is a value to some level of a la carte pricing. The question is making the math work so that you can still deliver the right kind of content back to the consumers with that variability in a la carte pricing. And minds greater than mine are working on that currently, but I think HBO is well positioned to play in that sphere if it actually happens.
Alison, the issue of piracy is back on the political agenda. Protect IP has a new version going through now the House. What is HBO's position on the impact of piracy on your business?
Piracy as a whole, it undermines the content creation factor. It undermines the right kind of payment structures that ladder back to people being able to create content and build a value for their content. So, clearly we're not in favor of making sure that we're not in favor of enabling piracy to happen. We're not trying to participate in anything that overly promotes piracy because it's inaccessibility, right? That's part of the issue around piracy, is that people don't feel if they can't get it, they'll rip it off. The question is, how can we leverage as an industry, and how can we as HBO participate in that, all the digital platforms and access points that digital affords you as getting product out there to kind of ameliorate the amount of piracy activity that's going to go on. Part of learning what maybe happened in the music business and giving those kind of options to a consumer before they have it, as a viable legal option of accessing the content, and in a way that still protects content creators and the writers and the SAG and the talent and the entire machine that makes this amazing content, puts together this amazing content that people want to watch. The piracy hurts that in the creative process in the end.
So there is a need for some sort of legislation to protect.
I'm not going to say that because I'm not going to weigh in on the legislation side of it, but I just think it's common sense. People have to be able to be paid for and protect the revenue stream for the cost of making content. Notwithstanding what the legislation is in there out there, I'm not going to weigh in on that.
Alison, you're also innovating on the social side. Tell me how you're using social to make HBO a more intimate, stickier experience.
So social for us is just an extension in some ways of what we started years ago with the idea of water cooler conversation, right? So at 9 p.m. on Sunday, 10 years ago, that's you came in Monday morning, you talked about what you saw on HBO on Sunday night. Social is a digital extension of that conversation. It's around connecting around shows, it's connecting around content. Content does that specifically, but HBO content does that in spades. And so for us, we took back social in-house about 3 years ago and decided we have a whole social media team that runs all the Facebook, Twitter, profiles that you see on our shows and our brands. We launched HBO Connect earlier this year, which is our experimentation in social to see, okay, we'll pick a couple of cool shows, we'll have all the activity around, see who's kind of clicking on our links that we're putting out in social. We'll host conversations with the talent and the show creators. We'll allow maybe them commentary, watch an episode with Lake Bell from How to Make It in America and see what was happening on this specific episode and see what sticks. Anytime that a content company can be participating in conversations with the consumers and allowing them to sort of engage and get something back from it, that's a really good thing. And we think it's okay to experiment in social. It's only good for our brand, and it's been something, like I said, we've been doing for years.
Final question.
Yep.
Put your profit hat on, and as the SVP of digital platforms, I assume you occasionally wear that. In 5 or perhaps 10 years' time, will there be any difference at all between the internet and television?
I think the internet delivery, the television experience, I think you're going to see a merging of it. It depends on, the internet affords television experiences formerly known as television experiences, be they on a television or other device. Amazing amounts of content delivered to a consumer with some level of personalization. I think that it's not going to become like, is it television and internet? It's just the experience. And both of those pieces will meld together. I don't know what it will be called, but as long as the right kind of mechanics are in place for securing the subscription rate or whatever business model that any company has to be able to pay for that kind of content, then the economics of the merging of the two can be done and be healthy for the industry as a whole, for the companies as a whole, for content creators as a whole, and good for consumers too. If I had a crystal ball for the next 5 years, I would probably not be the SVP of digital platforms.
Alison Moore, on that experiential note,
Yes.
I want to thank you so much for appearing on TechCrunch TV.
Thanks so much. Thank you.